Tracy with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you, Bold Brave Television, for having me. So here on Talks with Tracy, I have shared my own personal emotional healing journey, and this is a place to talk about doing that deep dive inward into our emotional experience, into our emotional healing, so that we can put an end to suffering. And I have shared my own personal journey with you. And doing so, I've also had guests on the show who have talked about how they guide people in doing that kind of healing. And they've shared some of their own suffering, their own personal emotional healing stories. And today I have yet another very special guest, and she is one of those people who has guided me and continues to guide me in my own journey. I am most certainly a work in progress, and I so appreciate her guidance. Today I have the amazing Lisa Adams, psychic medium, here to visit with me and talk about how she guides people in healing and how she guides people through her psychic medium readings. So I'm super glad to have her here. So I believe that, people come into your life when they're meant to come into your life, and this is significant, it's meaningful, it has purpose. um, I don't believe that anything happens by coincidence. I believe it all happens in its own time. So I was led to Lisa Adams by a friend of mine who owns a hair salon. So my dear friend Jay McDonald, she owns Bella Vita Hair Salon, and she met Lisa Adams when Lisa happened to be here in Montana for a while. She was staying here for an extended period of time, and my friend Jay offered her space in her salon to do psychic readings. And this is how I came to know the beautiful and amazing Lisa Adams. So I have to admit that the first time I met Lisa for my very first reading, I probably appeared a bit neurotic. I was, at the tail end of my emotional healing. Well, I'm still doing the healing, but I was at the tail end of that experience that I described in shows 1 and 2 on Talks with Tracy. And I had kind of been through the ringer. So when I went to Lisa, honestly, I only wanted her to tell me that I had been through the worst of it, that, I was going to move on, and there was, not going to be any suffering or challenge. It was going to be smooth sailing. That's so much what I wanted her to tell me, particularly, I'm not going to lie, in the area of relationships. And, what Lisa gave me was a very realistic and informative reading, which of course noted ongoing learning that I was going to go through, ongoing challenges and whatnot. She presented in a very nice way that actually did, in the long run, provide me with reassurance, that with what life had in store for me next. So that was a few years ago, and in that reading, she really reminded me that the challenges and the suffering and whatnot that had experienced and was going to experience, that I had chosen that for this lifetime, that my soul had come here to do this learning, and that, what the universe had put into motion, I had no control over, because honestly, I had asked her, like, okay, so there's going to be challenges and suffering. Can I just jump to the solution part and skip the challenge and suffering? Because I was like, I don't know how much more I can go through. right? Like I said, I'd been through the ringer. And she reminded me that, first off, I don't have the power to change what the universe has already set into motion. None of us do. And that it all has true meaning and learning, and it's all meant to be. So she reminded me that I can't circumvent what the universe has put into motion, but she did reassure me that I was going to be okay. And that calmed me. It reassured me. And she reminded me that I needed to trust the process. And that was invaluable to me. So I relaxed a bit. I did sit back into the process and trust it. And since then, I have gotten invaluable readings from her that have guided me, continued to reassure me, informed me, and it's just been amazingly helpful and healing to me. So please join me in welcoming the amazing Lisa Adams.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Tracy.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. I don't know if you remember that first reading that I had with you, but I was a ball of nerves, and everything you said that was even less than pleasant in my future. I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, ah! And I remember you saying, "Wow, you are a worrier, aren't you?" And I'm like, I'm trying not to be a worrier. I'm full of anxiety, but I just have been through a lot and I want things to be easy. And you were very helpful to
Oh,
me in
thank
that
you.
moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when we're going through difficult times, we just want it to be over. And when we're
Mm,
told that it can last a few months or a couple of years instead of a few days or a few weeks, we seem to get impatient and throw temper
mhm.
tantrums. So,
Yeah, well,
because we want things our way.
right. And, like doing that deep dive inward into your emotional experience is not necessarily pleasant, right? It doesn't feel good.
Oh, no. It's called shadow work in my side of the fence here. It's shadow work and it's unpleasant. And just when we think we've done the work, more pops up. And
Mm,
it's an ongoing process until we're in the ground. It's for our whole
mm,
life. We continue to
right.
learn and we can hopefully, and we continue to grow, hopefully.
Right. So when you say hopefully, are you referring to us also like having free will and
Yes.
choice in whether or not we do the learning?
Yes, we all have a choice. And when we go through things, we have a choice to do the work or not. And as most people know, uh, they experience things over and over and over again. Why does this keep happening to me? Well, you have to change the mindset. And sometimes that mindset is locked way deep inside from
Mm,
an experience they've had as a child or an adolescent or even a young adult, or heck, even last week. All
mm,
these experiences lead up to us going, why me? Why isn't this working? What do I have to do? I always fill in the blank. So
mhm,
it's that deep seated work that we need to do. But in the beginning, it's superficial because we all have to start somewhere, and
mm,
you wouldn't drop an inexperienced person down a deep dark mine. You you gradually, and that's how it is with us when we heal and when we do the shadow work for that healing.
Okay, and can you tell us how you guide people in that, like your readings? And I know that you're into astrology and whatnot.
Yes. When someone comes to me for a reading, I will ask them their birthday. There's astrology is so involved, but if I ask their birthday, I can look up their sun, their moon, and what is called the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon are a mathematical point in the elliptical orbit of the moon.
Mm.
And a south node represents where we're coming from, our past, and the north node represents where we are going to. And this is where we get the soul part, not the whole entire thing, but a little part of where we learn which direction we're supposed to go in.
Okay.
So, astrology is very helpful to me because there are many character traits. As we all know, Geminis are this and Scorpios are that, but it's so much more involved with that. And when a person is born, they have their own exact print of where the
Mm.
planets were at the exact minute we were born. And through life, as these planets hit, as the planets are transiting, these planets will hit on our birth chart planets and activate certain experiences that we go through in order for our soul growth.
Mm.
I hope that was
So,
clear.
so do you do a combination of then the astrological readings along with your psychic mediumship readings?
I don't do astrological readings. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
an astrologer. I
Okay.
I dabble in astrology, and I have a very
Okay.
dear friend who is an astrologer. And
Okay.
in fact, she helps me out quite a bit sometimes when I'm actually looking at someone's chart. However,
Okay.
she when I do, like, if you were a stranger and you came, in fact, I did this with you. I know I did because I do it with
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Hi, when is your birthday and year? And I will look up
Mm-hmm.
and I know exactly where the sun is. I know exactly where the moon is. And I know exactly where the transiting planets are and your nodes of the moon. And that, since everything is energy, I'm able to tap into your energy because that is
Mm.
your date. That is
Okay.
those are your planets. So I'm reading energy basically.
Okay. And that's the that gets more into the psychic mediumship part of it when
Yeah,
you're
yes.
doing reading energy.
Yes. When I am reading uh every how do I explain this so people can understand? I
Yes, please,
believe
simple.
I believe in parallel universes, and I believe that everything is happening all at once, and everything is energy and on a frequency, and it's matching or meeting that frequency. Now, this is used in law of attraction and manifestation, but it's
Mm,
also in our everyday lives. Everything's energy, every little thing. This is where God resides. And I'm hoping that I can be clear.
mm-hmm,
Um, when we can match that person's energy, I can see into that and I can
mm,
understand where they are, what I actually can feel their pain. I can
mm.
actually see if there is a physical ailment. However, I do not diagnose.
Diagnose. Mm-hmm,
No, never, never. I could
mm,
say, you may need to have are you having stomach issues? Oh, yeah, I'm having stomach issues. Okay, it's because you're nervous, or you need to go have it checked out by a physician or a
mm-hmm,
medical professional. I want,
mm-hmm,
I've called a couple of people that had cancer and it was
mm,
caught at the right time.
Mm,
So, yeah, I don't diagnose, but yeah, I
amazing.
can help. And I also, a lot of people find me blunt, but I'm
Hmm.
very to the point and I don't
Right.
sugarcoat stuff. When
Right. And
people
that's one
come,
of the things that I really appreciated about the readings. And, you even pointing out how, how anxious I was or a worrier about things and
hmm
whatnot. And, just kind of reflecting back what was happening with me as you
hmm
did the reading. Yeah, that was really helpful. I appreciate the bluntness or the direct kind of
hmm
communication that you do. Yeah.
thank you. I, it's part of me is was, I have been strung along with the BS, I suppose. And I don't like that. I want to
Mhm.
know what I want to know. And if
Mhm.
it's bad news or something uncomfortable, I want to know because forewarned is forearmed.
Mhm.
And
Right.
sometimes forearming yourself is putting up a wall of resistance. So you have to learn which way
Right.
you want to go because when that happens, we're having generally a soul lesson, a soul
Right.
experience to grow our soul.
Right. Then so you just described one of my favorite things about you, Lisa. I really appreciate that. So it's already time to take a commercial break. When we come back on Talks with Tracy, I like to do a little thing where I call it getting naked with my guests, and that's where I just ask you to share a little bit about your own struggle. Maybe people think that psychics don't even have any struggles because they know what's going to happen, but we all have struggles. We all have growth to do. So I'd love to if you could share a little bit in our upcoming segment with about yourself and your own experience.
Sure, be happy
Yeah.
to.
Great, thank you. So, you're watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Please join us with Lisa Adams after the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. We are here today with the beautiful Lisa Adams, who is a psychic medium, and she is sharing how she works with people. Now, before the break, I had mentioned that I like to do a little segment called Getting Naked, where I ask my guests to just get a little vulnerable and talk about their own personal struggle and emotional experience with healing and with doing that deep dive inward. And I was kind of saying that, some people might think that psychics have no struggles because they can see what's going to happen in the future, and they can know these things, and and avoid their own suffering. But we all have our work to do. We all came to this lifetime with a purpose for learning, and I'm sure psychic mediums are no different. Lisa, can you share a little bit about your own experience with us?
Yes, we're really no different than anybody else. And one thing I would like to say, make clear in the beginning, people think psychic mediums should know the lottery numbers. Psychic mediums
Uh,
should know what is coming ahead in their lives.
mm-hmm.
And psychic mediums, we do get, once we get evolved to a certain point, we will start noticing the signs and following the signs and going with the flow, the synchronistic energy that guides us all. Well, we have to also overcome our own egos and our own judgment. I could see a
Mm,
bluebird and go, oh, it means I'm going on vacation. And somebody else can see this. Or I could see a bluebird and go, oh, it has a messenger of bad news. Well, bluebirds aren't really bad news, but you get the idea. So
mm-hmm.
it's all just a matter of learning, because everything is out there for us. All the signs are there for us. And almost all of my life, I never paid attention to the signs. I
Mm,
believed that things should be a certain way. And when they weren't, I was devastated. I was raised with a European Jewish father, and we
mm,
weren't allowed to do anything. We were to get married and go to work. I mean, get married and stay home instead of work. And our husbands would take care of us. And when all of that didn't work out, that was hard to get over.
mm,
And it really, really, really hit me about 25 years ago. My ex-husband and I would be in church a lot. And when we were in church, I started seeing angels. And I also started seeing people's loved ones that had crossed over.
mm.
And I went to the pastor of the church, and he pretty much told me not to talk about it.
Oh.
And yeah,
Mm,
and so I didn't. And then a couple years later, my marriage ended. And
mm-hmm.
when that ended, that ripped my entire life out from underneath me.
Mm,
And that's when I realized what I was doing wasn't working.
mm-hmm.
And the universe always provides for us. And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well,
Mm,
that book, it was a book, and it appeared to me, and it was a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
mm-hmm.
And that book changed my life. And to this day, I recommend that to my clients that
Mm-hmm.
really, really want to change their life,
Right.
because it worked so well for me. And I have a whole bibliography of what I've used over the years to get myself to the point I am now. And
Right.
in
And is
fact,
that, excuse me, is that
mhm,
Louise Hay book? Hayes, I have read that as well. And I remember you recommending it to me also.
mhm,
But that's really, she talks a lot about changing our thoughts, right?
Yes,
As far
changing the
as,
way we,
and right, as far as how we want our lives to be, how influential, of course, our thoughts and the pictures we create
yes,
in our minds are.
yes.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that our childhoods and how we were raised, some people were raised in very warm, loving families, but they still have their stuff that they have to deal with. And I've seen people that were raised in wonderful families and were on the brink of suicide.
Mm,
So we all have our own stuff that we need to get over, regardless of what it appears like from the outside.
right.
And so when I had my whole life ripped out from underneath me, that's when I was devastated. And that's when I started with the book. I started implementing it. And then I started really learning how to use my gifts. And
Mm,
I was ravenous for information. And the universe did not disappoint. And
mm,
it continued to feed me information and people to help me grow. And there were some pretty hard times where I was, you know, crying and wanted
mm,
to just go crawl under the bed and hide forever. But
mm-hmm.
I did the work, and that's called shadow
Yes.
work, and it's
Okay.
never easy. But
Mm.
if you're serious about it, you'll do it and move forward.
Okay, and so shadow work, is that the same thing as what I describe as doing the deep dive inward into your
Yes.
emotional experience and really figuring out where your suffering is coming from, what's causing that, what beliefs we have, what words we're using in our minds, which pictures we have in our minds, where they came from, that kind of healing?
Yes. Yes. Um, it's just another term, shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's dark. It's dark.
Mm.
And this is where it's dark and it's painful. And well,
Mm-hmm.
when we start this journey, for me and others, we have these horrible, horrible times, and then it lets up a little bit, and then something else hits us. Those are like the layers of the onion.
Mm.
Like in the movie Shrek, he says
Yes.
ogres are like onions. You know, there's many layers, and that's what this healing is. Because if something happened when we were a child, and we keep going, we learn to live with that, and because of that we learn, that's how we survive through the from these instances and these little lessons. Well, if there was a trauma when we're a child, the death of a parent or abuse or something, that gets locked into us, and we create
Mhm.
our perceptions around that, and sometimes those
Mhm.
perceptions aren't right, because
Right.
we start thinking, I'm too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, too pretty, too ugly, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and those are what we need to quiet and learn to change up and move forward. And once we get ourselves to that point and we're not taking everything so personally, why is this happening to me? It's
Mhm.
because we chose it. We
Mhm.
chose to have these lessons. We chose to have these experiences. And this is why I like astrology, because all of these experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, will show up in your chart. And
Mm.
I like this because it'll, for example, oh, you have Saturn on your moon. This is going to be a difficult time for you with your emotions. If you have, because Saturn is the teacher, Saturn is karma. So Saturn comes in and says, okay, this is what you need to learn.
Mm.
Um, I've had another client, uh, in fact, I'll just say myself, when I first started, My whole thing was for me to learn to stand on my own, be
Mm.
independent of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was raised where I had everything I wanted and I wasn't supposed to go to work. And then next
Mm.
thing I know, I'm a single mom and I have to go to work.
Mm.
And hey, wait, that's not how it was supposed to be. So we've all had to learn those lessons.
Right, right. I remember one of the readings that I did with you. Um, I had this was a few years ago, but I'd been through quite a bit, and I was in a relationship. I was wanting to be married again. You know, you mentioned divorce. Well, I was ready to be married again, and I asked you some questions about that, um, my fiance, things like that, and I remember you telling me, you said, "Oh, well, there's going to be a time when you are separated from him." And I was like, okay, so what does separated mean? Like he's gonna be working out of town? Or do you mean like a relationship separation where I say, you know, you need to leave because some kind of rupture has happened? And you said, no, it's gonna be a separation in your marriage. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, no. And you said, I said separation, not divorce. He's going to do the work he needs to do, and you're going to stay together. And that was a great example of you just being very straightforward and direct with me and saying, yeah, this is going to happen and it's going to be okay. He's going to do the work, and it'll mend itself, and the relationship will be mended. And that honestly really helped me, because then if that did happen, and it
Mm-hmm.
really helped me to stay in the relationship and know this is going to be okay, you know. And that was one of the ways you guided me that was super, super helpful. So it's already time to take another commercial break. They come so fast, but when we come back, Lisa, can you talk a little bit about how we need to be willing to do the work, and sometimes we resist doing the
Mm-hmm.
work, and what that
Mm-hmm.
can look like, and if you've had any experience with
Mm-hmm.
that? Great. Thank you so much. So, you're watching Talks with Tracy, and I am your host, Tracy Claremont, on Bold Brave Television Network. Please join us with Lisa Adams after the break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much for joining us again. We're here with the beautiful and amazing Lisa Adams. She's been talking about how she does psychic readings and guides people. And I had asked a question before the break. I had asked her maybe to talk a little bit about how, we really need to be willing to do the work. And Lisa, you had mentioned how people sometimes ask, like, why does this keep repeating itself in my life? And why does this keep happening? And, it's really about whether or not we're willing to jump into that experience and look at where it's coming from and what is the learning, and do some healing around that. But, like you said, that can look really dark sometimes. And, as humans, we might resist doing that deep dive inward and, going into that darkness. Can you talk a little bit about that? And if you've had experience yourself with that?
I have had experiences with that myself several times, not several times, but a few times. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, most recently in December. And I had a friend of mine who is an energy healer, and I was asking her some questions about what's going on. I'm doing the work. And she had said, "You don't want to." And now on in my mind, I'm thinking, of course I want to. But it was
Mm-hmm.
such deep work that I didn't know what it was. I had started the work, which I use EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping. I
Mm-hmm.
used that, and I had done 1 2 week round of tapping, and that, like I said, you have to start with the surface. And so for me, that was a surface thing to do. That was, okay, I know this is going on. What do I know to do? So I did some EFT work, and I had been in Tennessee in October and November. That's when I did it. Whole month of November, I was busy, and then December rolls around, and I shut down. I
Mm.
I totally checked out. I stayed in my room. I watched movies. I ate ice cream. I didn't I didn't go anywhere. I even told my friend, my astrologer friend, can't talk, not in the mood, don't want to. And I was in the dark for a good clear up until Christmas. And then right after Christmas, I came home and it was like, okay, it's done. The resistance. You sometimes you just have to write it out and
Mm.
understand that you're resisting. For example,
Mm.
in the Louise Hay book, I've had some clients return to me and I say, have you finished the book? No, I stopped. Because there are in that book, there's a lot of stuff that gets everything churned up. And so it can
Mm-hmm.
float to the top and you can scrape it off. And um, they don't want to do that. I don't want to do
Mm.
it, but we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the refinement of gold. A goldsmith will throw all the ore in a pot and heat it up, and the dross, the impurities, come to the top and it gets scraped off. And it's the same. And then they turn the heat up again, and then impurities come up and it's taken away, and then it simmers for a while and then the heat's turned up, and that's what it is. And when we resistant looks like you stop going to the gym, or you stop eating right, or you hide out in your room for weeks in the dark. It could be through substance abuse. There's
Mm.
many forms. Now, I'm not talking about addiction. I'm talking about some substance abuse to get you over this hump. But a lot of people don't understand why they've gone to that dark place. And you have to just sit there and write it out. And then next thing you know, something comes along that you're able to uh, utilize to get you back on. Like, you've never left your path, but to get you moving again on your path, because even those dark places are part of our journey, our soul's
Mm.
experience.
Right. And some of our greatest learning comes from those darker places, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Life is a dark ride sometimes. Sometimes it's a roller coaster. Sometimes
Mm.
it's a small world. Who knows? But
Right.
yeah, it's not always easy.
Right. And I can remember those moments where, all the sludge was rising to the surface and I was
Yeah.
needing to scrape it off. And there were moments
Mm-hmm.
where it was so painful and scary,
Mm-hmm.
such a scary process that, I'd have moments where I would be like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I wanted to do it. I knew I wanted to do it, but there were moments where I was like, contemplating giving up and just continuing to live in suffering because the, you know, the awareness brought about for me, okay, here's my awareness of all the sludge that needs to be scraped off. Now I'm in a position where I take action or I choose not to. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was so frightening to me that I would be like, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I'll stay stuck because that is so scary. Creating all that change. Thankfully, I forged ahead and I, faced my fears and I moved into all of that healing. But it was just an incredibly overwhelming process for sure.
It
Yeah.
it's difficult and it's dark and it's scary because we're people, we like to control things. We like to, I want to drive 5 minutes to work, so you move 5 minutes away from where you work. We like to control our lives, and when our lives are out of control, we have to let
Mm,
go and trust that the universe, or our soul or our spirit guides or our angels will bring to us what we need in order to
mm,
move forward. And we just need to know, or not know, but we need to make a choice whether we're going to do it or not.
mm,
But when we're in the dark like that, we're in pain and we don't want to
mhm.
feel pain. We just want to feel better. We want to feel
Right,
happy. But all
right.
that happiness it's inside of us. It's not, doesn't come from external sources. It's all
Mhm,
inside of us 100%. The
mhm,
externals, like last week I think you had Ash on, and she was talking
mhm,
about her horses, and her horses are an external happiness for her, but they do
mhm,
create happiness for her that she has already tried to cultivate herself. So it's a nice
mhm,
marriage of energy. The horses love her, she loves the horses. And,
mhm.
I think that was a really good explanation of her with the healing of the how the horses heal her. So,
Right, absolutely.
yeah, and we all have our own way of healing. And again, it's a choice. I chose to check out for 3 weeks in December. And because I didn't know where to go or what to do, but what I had to do is I had to make the choice. This is where the resistance was. I had to
Mhm.
make the choice. Okay, this is done. I've been here enough. I know what I have to do. So, and that's what we all have to do.
Right,
And
right. And you
a
had
lot of people,
mentioned to me in a phone call that we had where it kind of gets along the lines of trusting the process, trusting the universe, what is set into motion. And you had said, you used an analogy. You were talking about, if I remember correctly, like an old school diving situation where, like, people would dive
yeah.
into the ocean with a tube connected, right? For
Hmm.
their breathing and whatnot. Can you kind of talk about like that analogy that you had mentioned to me and connection?
Well, usually when those things come to me, it's from spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll try my best to remember because it's like the radio plays. The radio doesn't remember what it played the last song it was. It just plays the way it's. So for me, the in the old school diving, they wore the helmet that bolted to the neck, and they had these huge heavy canvas suits, and they would go down into the water and the weight would just pull them down, but they were still attached to the boat. That was where their air came from. It wasn't at all like today's scuba divers. So when we are in that deep water or that deep dark place, we're always still connected to source. We're always still connected to the universe. We're always still connected to our friends and family. We're never ever disconnected, even though it feels as if we are. And we are never ever static or stagnant, even though we feel we are, because our lungs are still breathing, our heart is still beating, our cells are still multiplying and dividing. So we're never stagnant, even when we think we are. So
Beautiful,
if you have,
yes. And I love what you're saying about connection. We're always connected. And, one of my hopes with this show is that people can feel that connection and feel a connection in sameness, right? Like we're all on our journeys, we're all doing our work. And so I love that. I love that metaphor that you give about the connection, and we're always connected. Yeah, so
we are.
thank you for that. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
sure,
that. Again, it's
sure.
already time to go to another
Oh,
commercial break. Yeah, I
okay.
know it flies by. Time just flies by.
It
So
does.
when we come back, we'll be having our last segment, Lisa, and I would love for you to just share some final, some thoughts that you have, some things that maybe things from spirit that you're meant to communicate to people out there who are in the depths of their emotional deep dive or contemplating or feeling some suffering. I'd love for you to share whatever thoughts you have about that when we come
Okay,
back. All
sure.
right, so thank you. So you're watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, and the beautiful Lisa Adams, psychic medium. So please join us when we come back for some final thoughts. Thanks for watching.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. We are here with the amazing Lisa Adams, and she's sharing her her knowing, her insights. She just has so much to offer to all of us. And when we were on the break, Lisa had asked me when my birthday was, and I told her that it's coming up. I told her that I am an Aquarius, and um, she does this amazing thing where she just talks about what's coming up. And Lisa, can you share a little bit about what you shared with me, just as an example of what it's like to talk to you on a
Oh,
reading? It's
well,
amazing.
um, later this year, Pluto, the planet of death, transformation, and rebirth, think of the phoenix. Pluto rules Scorpio, and that's a deep dive. And with Pluto in Aquarius, Aquarius is liberation and freedom, but it's liberation through change, not yay,
Mm.
somebody busts down the cell door and you're free. It's liberation through change of your own mind.
Mm.
And if you are doing the work, yes,
Mm-hmm.
you will um, have it a little bit easier than people who are not doing the work.
Mm.
And then on a broader scale, Aquarius is the sign of humanity. And with Pluto, and the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the Revolutionary War in 1770s, whenever six, I think. I like history. You'd
Mm.
think I'd know that. Anyways, um, that there's some in general, there's some big changes coming, but on a personal level, you're gonna more changes to come to bring you to who you are, that phoenix that rises up out of the ashes. So you have
Mm.
some change.
So
You'll have some changes coming, and it'll be over a long period of time. You're not going to
right.
get nailed immediately. In fact, I don't even think you'll get nailed. I think you might get. I
Well,
think you
I
might get
am more than
shot.
willing to do the work, and maybe maybe I'll be sharing my work as it goes with everybody here on this show.
Oh yeah, because you
Yeah,
never know who might hear your story and find inspiration to take those steps to take care of
absolutely.
themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of all of this. So Lisa, do you have any final thoughts, any words that you'd like to share with people that they may need to be hearing, just like you said, who may need to hear something?
You have to take responsibility, or I should say, we all have to take responsibility for our own general uh, well being, our
Mm,
mental health, our emotional health, our physical health. It's our responsibility. This is one thing that if we can get all of that in line, I'm not saying we'll cruise through life without any ups or downs, but it'd be a whole lot better doing the work than
mm,
resisting the work
mm,
and
mhm,
resisting the fact that we like to have control and we're out of control. And when
mm.
the best time is when we're out of control, that's the best time to start working on yourself.
Doing the work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being accountable, right?
Yeah.
Looking within as
Yes.
opposed to, you know, channeling all our energy or looking outside of ourselves and blaming and things like that.
Yes.
Really
We have
taking
a choice.
accountability. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I
Um,
love that.
I get a lot of people wanting to know about relationships. In fact, that's the majority of my readings is about relationships.
Mm.
And if they only would realize that if they work on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then because if they work on themselves, then they actually have more to give. They're not looking outside of themselves to have that void filled up.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning about yourself and learning who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can do this within a relationship too, although that relationship will change.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a relationship, in my belief, soulmates come to help us grow our souls.
Right.
And if that person chooses not to do their own work, which in turn helps you grow your soul. This is why we have a lot of discontent in marriages and committed relationships. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter, gay, straight, whatever, you have to be working on yourself in order for this marriage or relationship to work. And if one
Right.
person chooses not to do the work and you outgrow them, a lot of people feel they need to stay married, and they don't. And what will happen if one partner is not willing to do the work, the universe will remove them from your life and replace it with someone who will do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh my
it's
gosh, that sounds like a whole nother show. So
oh
I would love for you to come back and talk about just
okay.
that. We could do a whole show talking about relationships and
I
whatnot. So please tell us how people can get a hold of you for readings.
um email me your phone number and your name, and I will call you. My email is lisaadams444@gmail.com. And if you
Perfect.
mention the show, I'll give you a little bit of a discount.
Oh, awesome. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And your readings are amazing. I absolutely recommend everybody to get a reading from Lisa. It's just an incredible experience. So thank you, Lisa, so much for being here today. And please join me again for another show in the future. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. So, if you'd like to get in touch with me for hypnotherapy or life coaching, anything like that, I can be reached by via email as well at hypnowithtracy@yahoo.com or on my website, Tracy Claremont Hypnotherapy. Next week is just going to be me, and I'm going to be answering questions from viewers. So that show is going to be so much fun. Please join me for that. You've been watching Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live from the Bold Brave Television Network. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you for watching.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV.